The millionaire single dad stood stunned as his disabled daughter painted a portrait of the waitress. Little did he know that this drawing would unlock a fated secret from a past life, binding them together forever. Hello, my wonderful audience. Prepare for a story that will melt your heart. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe if you're drawn into this journey. Leave a comment below to tell me where you're watching from and what time it is there. It's amazing to see people from all around the world join us today. Isaac was once a renowned archaeologist. The man possessed the ability to hear the whispers of lost civilizations, to decode every ancient symbol carved in stone, to catch faint echoes across time. But now, in front of his little daughter, he was powerless. Lila, the 7-year-old with those deep, cavernous eyes, hadn't uttered a single word since the accident. She neither cried, nor smiled, nor made a sound. She existed solely in her own world, a realm crafted from scraps of paper and cryptic drawings, images that at times resembled wings, at others, swirling eddies, and sometimes an endless circle. Her tiny hands trembled each time they gripped the pencil, as if wrestling with an invisible force inside. Isaac had grown accustomed to that sight. Yet he had never grown used to the suffocating sensation of watching his daughter trapped in that absolute silence. That day, they sat in a small bakery on a corner of the old quarter. The air inside was heavy with the rich aroma of pastries and freshly ground coffee. Isaac chose a seat by the window, where the slanted afternoon light spilled across the worn wooden table. Lila sat motionless, her knit cap pulled low over half her face. Her gaze remained fixed on the tattered sketchbook in her lap. Then Nora appeared. The young woman approached carrying the menu. Her gently curled hair was pinned neatly at the nape of her neck. Her face radiated a warmth and gentleness that Isaac immediately recognized, the soft glow of someone who had been wounded, yet not defeated. They exchanged no words, only a nod and a faint smile. And then the strange thing happened. Lila reached out her hand, without a sound, without any prompting. She drew the sketchbook toward her and withdrew the pencil from her pocket. Isaac held his breath. The first lines flickered into being, a woman's face emerging on the blank page, large eyes, a high nose bridge, a slightly tilted smile. Each feature grew clearer with every stroke, curly hair cascading gently on either side of the cheeks, a small beauty mark near the chin. Isaac turned to look at Nora, then back at the drawing. There was no mistaking it. It was her. Nora fell silent as well, her expression frozen, her eyes glued to the image unfolding from the hand of a girl who had never spoken a word. But Lila did not stop. Tiny thatched houses appeared around the face, a cobblestone path leading into the village, a well at its center, several birds soaring overhead. The air in the bakery grew thick, like winter honey. The silence turned bone-chilling. Nora braced herself on the edge of the table to steady her balance. Her lips parted, nearly a whisper. "I've dreamt of this village." Her words rang out like a crack in the atmosphere. Isaac looked at her. Nora did not look back. She stared intently at the drawing, as if it had pulled her back to a place she had long forgotten. Neither spoke for several minutes. Lila, after laying down the final stroke, let the pencil drop as softly as a breeze. The drawing lay between them like a door ajar to something deeper, larger, and more ancient than memory itself. Isaac felt his heart pound, as if awakened. He had discovered buried cities, millennia-old tombs, yet he had never encountered anything so uncanny and sacred. As though Lila was speaking, not with words, but with her soul, with images, with a language that transcended language. And in that moment, hope ignited within him, hope that his daughter, though silent, was trying to say something, trying to reach someone, perhaps him, perhaps Nora, or perhaps the very world long lost that they were both unconsciously seeking. Isaac couldn't sleep that night. Lila's drawing wouldn't leave his mind for even a single moment. The woman's face with that gentle smile, too much like Nora's, and the village, those thatched roofs, the well, the cobblestone path, details that could not be mere coincidence. As if his daughter were speaking in strokes the world had never heard. The next morning, Isaac began his inquiry. He didn't know why, only that pressing feeling in his chest. He needed to understand. He needed to know who that woman, Nora, truly was, why Lila had drawn her, why Nora recognized the village, and why he felt he saw the echo of pain in her eyes, even when she smiled. A name, a file, a crack in the past gradually revealed like centuries of dust swept away. Nora had once been an art history student at Harvard, brilliant, passionate, destined to become a great scholar, yet abruptly she withdrew. No degree, no official reason, vanished from academia as if she had never existed. The car accident occurred when she was 22, a rainy night. The vehicle skidded. Her sister, Elena, died on the spot. The only person, according to psychological records, who had ever understood the strange, hauntingly vivid dreams Nora had recounted since childhood. Isaac closed the file, his heart tightening. He didn't know what he hoped to find. But when he saw the photograph of the two sisters, Nora and Elena, standing at a country fair, beaming with joy, he understood that Nora had lost more than a loved one. She had lost the one part of the world that once believed in what she saw, and she had fled, working as a waitress in a small bakery, living quietly, severing all ties with the future she had been promised. When Isaac returned to the bakery, Nora was wiping down the counter. Outside, a light rain drizzled. Droplets pattered against the window. The air carried the chill of late autumn. He said nothing at first. He simply placed Lila's drawing on the counter. She looked up, her eyes blinked, and then she froze, as if pulled backward into some distant realm she had long tried to lock away. Her hand, holding the cloth, slowly dropped. Lila's drawing lay between them like a wordless question, like a summons from beyond time. That face, that village, images from dreams that had repeated throughout her childhood, the village she had walked with stone streets, the church bells echoing through pine groves. A little black-haired girl with large eyes, identical to Lila, standing beside a tall man with bright eyes, identical to Isaac. Nora trembled, not from fear of the drawing, but from fear of what she had always denied, that those dreams had never been just dreams. "How does the girl know?" Her voice caught in her throat. Isaac did not answer. He simply looked at her, not like a man seeking answers, but like a father who for the first time felt someone truly seeing his daughter. Nora could not tear her eyes away from the drawing. She did not want to believe, yet she could not look away. Something was kindling within her, a tether binding her to this picture, to Lila, to herself. She remembered Elena, remembered how her sister used to say, "Your dreams are memories waiting to be recalled." At the time, Nora had only laughed. Now she wanted to cry. Isaac placed his hand on the table, gentle but resolute. "You can help me," he said, his voice low and compelling. She looked at him and saw in his eyes no imposition, no expectation, only the earnest plea of a father and the faint glow of faith. Though afraid, though her old wounds still smoldered. A part of Nora, the part she thought had died with Elena, stirred awake, a part that could not refuse. She nodded, soft as the falling rain, and so it began, not an investigation, but a journey to reclaim the self, through the eyes of a child who never spoke, through the dreams that recurred each night, through the memories that had been forgotten. The villa nestled amid the pine forest on the outskirts of Salem, a tranquil refuge, cut off from the world, where sunlight streamed through oversized windows, laying itself out like a warm, golden carpet on the gleaming wood floor. Isaac had once thought this place too cavernous for just the two of them, but today felt different. Today, Nora was here. She entered with quiet eyes and a heart still heavy with doubt. Inside her dwelled fear, and the old scars of her past remained unhealed. But she came, drawn by a reason she dared not name, perhaps for Lila, perhaps for herself. Isaac led her down the long corridor, stopping before an open door. "Lila's room," he murmured. Nora peered inside. The space was bathed in gentle light, its walls adorned with paintings, each canvas a small world in which colors merged like unspoken dreams. Lila sat in the armchair by the window, her dark hair cascading down, her eyes as still as a silent lake. Her small hand gripped a pencil, but she did not draw. She looked at no one. She said nothing. Nora approached slowly, without a sound, without attempting to draw attention. She dragged over a small chair, positioning it just far enough not to make the girl feel compelled. Then she sat, doing nothing but sitting. Minutes passed in silence, not a heavy silence, but one of waiting, patient, creating a space safe enough that the child neither felt watched nor forced to speak. Nora tilted her head, her gaze quietly tracing the paintings on the wall. She asked nothing. She only offered a soft smile, and then, in a voice barely above a whisper, to herself, she said, "When my sister was alive, she used to say, 'Drawing is how the soul tells its story.'" Lila did not react, yet the hand gripping the pencil loosened slightly. The next day, Lila began to draw again, no longer those aimless scribbles, but shapes, details, a village with an ancient stone gate, straw-thatched roofs tilting beneath a misty sky, a well, a narrow path leading into the woods. Nora did not inquire what the girl was sketching. She simply observed, occasionally nodding or tilting her head as if she too had glimpsed that place in some distant dream. And then, in another painting, a necklace appeared, engraved with a repeating spiral motif, ancient and elegant. And then, a sketch that took Isaac's breath away. 3 figures, hand in hand, a little girl, a woman, a man. Lila named no one, but something in their faces, even in those rough pencil lines, told of belonging, that they were family. On a chilly evening, as the sunset bathed the room in amber light, Nora sat beside Lila as always, a new drawing left unfinished before them, the girl adding color to the sky. Nora placed her hand on a corner of the paper, about to turn it gently, and in that moment, a small thing, yet enough to make the world pause, Lila reached out. Her tiny finger brushed against Nora's fingertip. Not a pull, no pressure, just a grasp. The girl's eyes lifted, their gaze softened, grew brighter, as if the haze around her had lifted somewhat, as if she had seen someone she was finally willing to let in. Nora froze for a heartbeat, then slowly closed her hand around the girl's, saying nothing. But in her heart, something melted. Outside the room, Isaac stood silent. He didn't step inside. He only watched from afar, his heart slowing its relentless beat after those long, endless months of despair. He saw Lila hand in hand with Nora. He saw the light sparkling in his daughter's eyes. And he knew, in that moment, Nora had opened the door he himself could not. The door into that little soul so tightly locked. The door that love, patience, and an age-old pain had helped her unlock. Isaac quietly leaned his head against the doorframe, his eyes stinging. He had uncovered countless ancient relics, unearthed mysteries buried by time. But this was the most miraculous discovery of his life. Dear viewers, please relax for a moment, or pour yourself a glass of water, then continue listening. There are more surprises ahead, and let me know in the comments where you're watching from and what time it is there. It's always wonderful to see people joining us from all around the world. Comment number 1. If you think this story is great, so we can continue bringing you even more amazing tales. Isaac had never imagined he could feel something so deeply again. After years of solitude among broken statues, ancient manuscripts, and cold excavations in age-old earth, he believed his heart had already turned to stone. But Nora, in some inexplicable way, reached the softest part of him, without fanfare, without intent, simply through the gentleness she carried in every look, every breath. At first it was all for Lila, but with each passing day, Isaac realized that Nora's quiet courage, the strength of someone who had lost so much yet remained powerful enough to love a child not her own, was drawing him in, irresistibly. One evening, in the hushed halls of the city's archaeology museum, they pored over Lila's latest sketch reproduction. The only sound was the distant hum of the ceiling fans and the pale golden glow of lamps suspended above each exhibit case. Isaac halted before one display, a silver necklace, its spiral engravings worn by time. His heart thundered in his chest. The necklace, identical in every detail to the one Lila had drawn. He leaned closer, his eyes fixed on the label. Unearthed from an ancient village near Salem, dated 17th century. His throat went dry. It could not be coincidence. Nora, standing beside him, fell silent. Her eyes widened, reflecting the museum lights. For a moment, her hand clenched at her side, as if a buried memory was surfacing, as if she'd crossed the boundary between reality and something unnamed. Isaac did not hesitate. He followed the rhythm of his pounding heart. His hand reached out, gently finding hers. Their fingers met in the space between them, and in that instant, the world seemed to blur and fall away, leaving only an absolute stillness. There they stood, amid centuries of forgotten history, as if time itself had paused so they could meet in this precise moment. Then he bent down. A kiss brushed softly, not hurried, not awkward, just the silent whisper of two lost souls who had inadvertently found each other. But as Isaac felt the warmth of her lips, Nora suddenly froze. Her entire body tensed. Her eyes widened in panic. She stumbled back, as if torn abruptly from a dream. Her breath came in rapid gasps. Her hand trembled. "I can't!" Her voice cracked like a stray wind through a stone corridor. "Let anyone into my life, only to lose them." Before Isaac could utter a word, Nora turned and fled. Her footsteps echoed through the empty museum, carrying a chill that swept through his heart. She vanished into the night as though she had never been there, leaving behind a void so vast it felt impossible to fill. Lila sensed it before Isaac did. The next day, Her room of paintings was silent. No pencil scratched the paper. No new colors were added. Only a little girl curled up in the corner, eyes vacant, arms hugging her knees as if to keep herself from falling apart. Isaac sat opposite her for hours. He didn't know what to do. He didn't know what to say. He read old books. He recounted fairy tales. He played the soft music Nora used to put on when she and Lila drew together. But Lila did not move. She did not look at him. She did not respond. She seemed to have retreated into that old silence, where nothing stirred and no one could reach her. And as Isaac watched the girl whose eyes had once shone so brightly now grow distant, he understood. Nora was not simply the one who helped Lila draw. She was the bridge between two worlds he could not cross, the fragile yet vital thread that kept Lila tethered to this life. And now that she was gone, everything fell apart with her. Isaac could not let things end that way. He had lost too much in his life to accept another loss, especially when it was the one who had coaxed his daughter into a smile after months of silence. And so, that morning, he lifted Lila into his arms, the little girl's tiny arms wrapped around his neck. Her eyes were still quiet, but no longer vacant. They returned to the bakery, where it all began. The door creaked softly as Isaac pushed it open. The warmth from the oven drifted out like an invisible embrace, yet the bakery did not feel the same. It was silent. No customers' laughter. Only Nora stood behind the counter, her figure slimmer than before, and her eyes, sunken, weary, seemed to carry the weight of many sleepless nights. When her gaze fell on them, time seemed to freeze. The drawing in Lila's hand trembled. Then the little girl stepped forward, each tiny step slow yet certain, and handed the paper to Nora. 3 people. A moss-covered stone tomb. A necklace gleaming like moonlight in the dark. No explanation, no words. Just the drawing, like a forgotten memory newly rediscovered. Nora looked at the paper. Her eyes trembled. Her breath grew heavy. Her fingertip quivered as it touched the corner of the paper, as though with one light touch all would shatter into 1,000 fragments of memory. And then, the miraculous happened. Lila lifted her head, for the first time. Not a glance, not a fleeting look, but a steady gaze into Nora's eyes, gentle, peaceful, as if the girl had just found something she had lost lifetimes ago. Then, Lila's small hand rose slowly, brushing Nora's cheek. A touch as light as a petal, yet enough to catch Nora's breath. Across the room, Isaac stood still, his eyes rimmed red, his voice low and hoarse, as if drawn from the depths of his soul. "We've met before, haven't we?" No one answered, but the truth stood clear. The 3 of them left the bakery together. They returned to the museum where Isaac had once worked. In that ancient room, shafts of light fell through high windows onto the yellowed maps below. No one spoke as Nora approached the archive table. Her hand glided over the old documents as if guided by instinct, not reason. And then they found it. A faint passage in a 17th century chronicle telling of a village near Salem, of a family of 3, a man, a woman, and a child, bound by a necklace passed down through generations like a sacred vow. But war descended. The man was taken away, the woman perished, the child vanished. Legend held that they were buried together in a single grave, so that what was torn apart would be reunited. Beside them, Lila sat motionless, her eyes unblinking. She withdrew colored pencils from her pocket and pulled a blank sheet from her sketchbook. She began to color, slowly, meticulously, as though each stroke was a fragment of a distant soul coming home. The old grave appeared, but this time it opened, and within there was no darkness or death, only 3 figures, hand in hand, no separation, no barriers, only light and reunion. When the drawing was complete, Nora saw it first. Tears streamed down her cheeks, not from sorrow, but from understanding. A part of her that had died with her sister was being reborn through those small, deliberate strokes. She bent over and embraced Lila tightly. An embrace without promises, without vows. Only acceptance. Allowing the heart to speak what words could not name. Isaac stood behind them, waves of emotion stirring in his chest. He did not understand it all, but he knew. This was not mere coincidence, not just the present moment, but the continuation of something sacred, from lives that had once loved, once lost, and now were reunited. Sunset descended along the banks of the Charles River like a slow painting drawn in the day's last light. The water mottled with orange and purple, reflecting clouds drifting silently above, and in that moment, time seemed to soften, yielding to something more sacred than itself. A proposal. Isaac knelt, his knee brushing the damp grass. In his hand, a small burgundy velvet box that held not just his journey, but the journey of 3 souls long separated across lifetimes. He opened the box. Inside lay the ancient necklace, meticulously restored. Its spirals gleamed in the fading glow. It was more than jewelry. It was a symbol, a memory, the invisible thread that had pulled them back together from the shards of a past life. Isaac's voice was quiet, yet each word etched itself into the air. "I can't promise you the world," he said, his gaze fixed on Nora's shining eyes. "But I promise to give you everything I have to love and protect you. And Lila." Nora covered her mouth with one hand, fighting back tears that traced down her cheeks. She said nothing, only nodded. Slowly. Surely. Then she bent forward and clasped the necklace. Her fingers trembled as she fastened it around her neck, like a soul completing a fated circle waiting centuries to close. Nearby, Lila sat in her wheelchair, her soft hair framing her face. On her lap lay her sketchbook, open to its final page. Lila's colored pencil moved in her hand as if guided by something unseen, pure. The image emerged, 3 figures hand in hand, walking along the cobblestone path. Behind them, the ancient village faded into the distant glow. No sorrow, no separation, only the peace radiating from every line. One chapter closed, not with the slam of a door, but with an embrace, with joined hands, with warmth passing from one heart to another. Isaac looked at Nora, then at Lila, and for the first time in his life, he no longer felt lost in the world. For he understood. They were not merely 3 strangers who had collided by chance. They were a family. Destiny had once torn them apart, yet it was that very same destiny that guided them back to one another, through time, through suffering, and through inexplicable dreams. For there are loves that do not need time to blossom. They have existed long before we ever realized we needed them. There are people who do not enter our lives to teach us a lesson, but to remind us of what we have always known, always felt, always cherished. And there are children like Lila, small, silent, yet carrying within them a current of memory, of soul, of truth. that nothing, not even death, can prevent a family from being reunited. In the final moments of the day, as the sunlight quietly withdrew from the water, leaving behind the pale blue of peace, they simply sat there, without words, merely present. And in that presence, the world seemed more beautiful, simpler, and right. If you have stayed with us until the very end of this story, thank you for believing in things that transcend reason, and for believing that some connections are stronger than time itself. If this story has touched your heart, please leave a comment, share your feelings, or simply let us know. Where are you watching this video from, and what time is it there? It would bring us great joy. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and share this story with your loved ones and friends across America. For perhaps someone out there needs the reminder that no matter where you are on your journey, family, truly, always finds its way back together.